Well, I have Bill Mattox here with us for this first meet and greet, WRBC Pastor Meet and Greet. And so we're hoping that we all can get to know each other a little bit better. So, Bill, welcome and glad. I'm really glad and thankful that you agreed to do this. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in ministry and at your current church.
All right. I've been here, to start with the easy part, I've been here at Meadowood Baptist in Madison since January of 2000. My first Sunday in the pulpit was Millennium Sunday, and we were all wondering whether or not the clocks were going to work or the heat was going to go on. And so I've been here actually in my 21st year at Meadowood. So, prior to that, I was at Grace Baptist in Binghamton, New York, as their pastor of education and worship. And that was my first full-time ministry exposure. This is my second career, was in sales before in Syracuse, New York. And just God worked things out. I mean, the story's too long to tell here, but clearly his hand directed me to ministry. And my dad's a pastor, has been a pastor. He's now 93. Still teaching Sunday school. So I grew up in a PK house and I understood the demands of ministry. And that's probably why it's my second career and not my first career or my only career. Because I learned some things, saw some things that made me say, I think maybe this isn't what I want to do. But God had a plan. And so that's my ministry story per se. Graduate of Baptist Bible College, with graduate work at Baptist Bible Seminary in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, which is now Clark Summit University.
So you're originally from New York, right?
Now, upstate New York. Yeah, don't confuse New York City with upstate New York. It's like if you're in Illinois saying, no, you must be from Chicago, kind of a thing, but yeah, upstate New York.
So, and if my memory serves me right, that means you're a Yankee fan, right?
Yep. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Rangers fan. I'm a Giants football fan, and I am a Knickerbockers basketball fan. All of those other sports in lesser degree than baseball. That's my thing. But I always have been a Packer fan, even from when I was a kid. When we were kids, I was around when they had the first pass, punt, and kick competition. And it was run by Ford dealerships, and you'd go to the Ford dealership and you'd register, and they would give you your choice of a T-shirt. And so the T-shirts that were available where I went, was the Cleveland Browns or the Green Bay Packers. And I liked the green and gold better than the brown and orange, so I picked that. And that was in the Lombardi, Nitschke years, that I became a Packer fan. So when God brought me to Wisconsin, I was on the way out here, and the plane that was when I was candidating, the people on the plane were wearing, it was football season, and there were people on the plane wearing cheese heads. And I'm going, oh, this must be heaven.
Hey, a minute ago, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go. You're good.
A minute ago, you had mentioned about being a pastor's kid. Yep. What piece of advice would you give to both pastors and their children about growing up in a pastor's home?
I think probably be real. I think pastors have a unique opportunity to expose their children to ministry in a way that the average congregant doesn't see it. And by that, I don't mean tell your kids all the secrets that should have been left at the elders or deacon meeting, but involve them in decisions, on what's going on and how is God working, and let them see. I mean, it's similar advice I'd give to any parent, really, but let them see how God is directing your lives as a family, and I think that that's a powerful tool. I've always had a passion for ministry. I always felt like that my most enjoyable moments in my life were the moments I spent in church, whether it was teaching a Sunday school class or cleaning the toilets or leading the choir for a cantata or whatever it was. I always felt like that was my home, even when I was in a secular job. I loved teaching Sunday school class so much that I'd always, when it was vacation time from work, I would always arrange my vacation to end on Saturday so I could be at church on Sunday to teach my Sunday school classes. I didn't want to miss that. I enjoyed it. I had a love for it. But that's, I think part of that is because I grew up in a PK's home, and that's not every PK is going to become a PK or a missionary.
Sure.
But I think one of the things I always tell people is, a lot of people are waiting for God to call them to full-time ministry. They're waiting for like something to be written in the sky that says, you should be a preacher, and I think that what we fail to do as parents, and I encourage any church I've ever been a part of to do as part of their child rearing process, is to encourage their children to seek ministry first. And if God doesn't want you there, he'll close the door.
Right.
So don't be afraid of it. If you believe that God's in control, and then seek ministry. And if God says, no, you need to be a banker, well, he'll shut the doors.
Yeah.
But I think that heartbeat for ministry I got from my parents, and I think it's important that pastors, being a PK, you always felt like people were looking at you. And they probably were, quite honestly. My dad used to tell me when I was a teenager and went out with friends or on a date or whatever, one of the things he used to say to me before I'd go, almost all the time, was, remember, you're my son. And for some people that can be a heavy yoke to wear. You're the pastor's kid. Yeah. But I tell you, it kept me out of a lot of trouble because I knew that what I did reflected on my dad as his ministry, and I didn't want to be the one to mess his ministry up. So I think as a pastor, it's nothing wrong with letting your kids know that they have a unique role in your ministry and in the church, and that they're held to a higher standard, whether they like it or not. There is a higher standard for a PK than there is for the average, kid in the church. You don't need to wear it, and and let everybody know how you're suffering for Jesus. But I think it's a good thing to help your kids see that. It builds character, I think. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, you and I are on different ends. Your kids are grown and mine are young. We're kind of on different ends of that spectrum. So I appreciate your experience and sharing that. And I'm hoping that that's what these interviews do, as we do with other pastors, is that we can learn from each other. And you've had a lot of ministry experience, and you've preached a lot of sermons and sermon series and things like that. Is there a particular book or sermon series that you remember preaching that was kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, a couple. When I first came to one of my favorite, I have three favorites. Okay. My first favorite is the 2 Samuel 15, 17 through there, where the battle of the Baal worshipers versus depending on where you went to your Hebrew school, I guess.
Exactly.
Worshipers versus Elijah, and I think that incredible message about Elijah presenting God as the one people, the people standing there. He says, if you follow God, if you're for God, stand up and say so. If you're for Baal, stand up and say so. And the text says, and the people answered not a word.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Just 2 million people on that amphitheater of a hillside, and nothing, not a word. And then when Elijah performs the miracle that God allows him to perform, the response from the crowd is different. And I think it's not. It could have been, Elijah, you the man.
You're right.
But it wasn't Elijah, you the man. It was the Lord, he is God. And so that to me is a powerful image to play with in sermon. when I first came to Madison, I did my first sermon series on the book of First Corinthians, and the title of it was Life on the Isthmus.
Oh.
And we looked through, the similarities between the culture that we are here and the culture that is Corinth. A lot of similarities, I think, between the two. And so that was and then my favorite book to preach is the book of Philippians. And I have a 4-message series that I've done from that book. And most people look at the book and say it's about joy, which I think it is to a degree, but my theme for it was nothing else matters but Jesus. I think that's what I see as I go through there. And I know the whole book, I feel like the whole book was written for Yodia and Syntyche, so we could say, this is how God works. You guys figure it out. I preached that message at the Chinese church in Madison, one of the messages from that book. And it was halfway through the message, and we were talking about how important Jesus is in our lives and how he should be the focus and how nothing else should matter, and I used the illustration. I said, without Jesus, life is just a bowl of white rice. And I think that they probably still remember that line they might not remember anything else in the message, but they thought that was pretty cool because it kind of described what I felt like. White rice is pretty bland. Life is pretty bland without Jesus. So those are my 3, I think, favorite places that if I showed up at a church and somebody said, "Oh, you need you to preach," I'd probably preach one of those messages.
That's cool. 2 other questions, and then the one we're done. The first one is, what hobbies do you have? What do you like to do to kind of unwind, decompress? What do you like to do if you have any time off?
Okay. Yeah. My wife and I used to be a motorcycle guy. I used to have a Gold Wing. We used to ride, my wife and I, on Mondays in the summer when it was decent, and fall and spring when it was decent. We'd ride a lot on Mondays, our day off. But that's a 1,000-pound bike, and I'm 68, and discretion has become the better part of valor. And so I don't do that anymore, but I enjoy photography. Not that I'm any good at it, but I enjoy taking pictures and landscape kind of stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do. I have a couple of guys in my congregation who are software engineers for a gaming company that makes Call of Duty and other Activision games. And so I kind of have picked up a little bit of gaming that I do just so that I can not sound like a noob every time I talk to them about stuff. I'm not any good at it. I mean, if I told them both, I said, if you ever see the day where I'm good at Call of Duty, you'll know I'm spending way too much time there and not enough time in the books. So I enjoy playing some of those, some computer games a little bit. But photography and going for rides with my wife. My wife has a convertible, so we like to crank the top down.
Yeah.
That was the deal. I got rid of my motorcycle. She got a convertible. So we can still roll the window down and enjoy the fresh air. So, yeah.
Well, those days are becoming numbered. They're numbered right now.
Yeah, we had the top down 2 days ago. Last week, Friday, I think it was. We had the top down. Nice. It was a beautiful day there, but yeah, I think we're done with that. Car's going to go in the garage for the rest of the winter pretty quick here.
So I thought that you were going to mention the Instapot. I mean, because I see your Facebook post. And
I do like to cook.
You do it looks like there's some great meals that you whip up there. So
I do enjoy cooking. My wife said, "Where have you been all my life?" I've probably developed that over the course of the last, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. But I do enjoy cooking, and it's sort of a release. And my wife is my sous chef. And or maybe I'm her sous chef. I don't know, but I do enjoy that a lot. It's fun. I cook and bake a few things.
I think as pastors, we're a lot of the work we do, we don't see an end product for, and even like preaching a sermon, it's never really done until we're done preaching it, as far as the preparation. And even then there's another one coming right at you real fast again.
So the rock at the top of the hill, man.
Yeah. And even the progress in people, there's no definitive, okay, they're done here. So I think that sometimes for us to have an unwind hobby or something like that, like cooking or something, you can see something all the way to completion. And I think that there's something to be said about that's really helpful to see. Okay,
I totally agree.
End of that. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah. All right, last question. If you could recommend a book or a resource or something to another pastor, doesn't have any category, could be theological, could be leisure, a good novel or commentary, what would you recommend?
I like I have a few books that are kind of like go-to books for me. I have a book. I had a book. I can't remember the name of it because I use it a lot. I'm 68. I'm not supposed to remember stuff anymore. So we'll have to edit that out of the thing.
What was it about?
It's an overview of the Bible.
Yeah.
It's a book on the cover. I think Warren Wiersbe said, if you have one book in your library, this is the book to have. And when I saw that coming from Wiersbe, I said, this is worth probably getting. It's about that thick.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you come up with a name, I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, I will. I like that book. I like Wiersbe's commentaries, the B series.
Yeah.
Wiersbe's a wordsmith.
Yeah.
And I like just to read his stuff. I'm reading right now, Michael, I don't know if it's here at home, Michael Heiser's book, The Realms, Heavenly Realms, I think it is.
Okay.
And it's a really good book. I would highly recommend this. It will make you think.
Okay.
We as pastors always tend to find hard passages when we're studying for messages. I mean, like really hard passages.
Yeah.
We go to the commentaries, and all of a sudden we discover we weren't the only ones that were hard passages for, because the commentators tend to skim over them too, or give some surface explanation that okay,
that wasn't helpful.
Yeah. And what he does in this book is he looks Unseen Realms. That's the name of it, Unseen Realms. What he does in that book is he tackles. I'm just partway through it, but he's tackling the really hard questions. And if it will do nothing else for you, it will make you think.
Cool.
Because it takes you to places where he presents a logical argument where you have to believe something you didn't think you believed.
Okay.
And I think so. It's kind of a brain. It exercises your brain and challenges you to think through some things that you sort of just before you just sort of said, yeah, okay, well, it's like eschatology. The last day in your theology class, the last day you decide to cover. Your professor decides to cover the whole theological area of eschatology in the last day. And says, here's the chart, memorize it for the test.
Exactly.
Kind of a thing. But this makes you think through stuff, and so it's good. And then I think my favorite secular author is John Grisham. I like John Grisham stuff. So I read a lot of him.
Cool. Right
now I'm reading Brad Metzger's Lincoln, the conspiracy to kill Lincoln or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm old. I forget stuff.
But you're still reading. And that's the important thing.
I'm wondering why, because I can't remember anything I read. But
I tell people when they're reading and they struggle with comprehension. I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying that one thing I tell them, because some people say, particularly when I talk to men, they'll say, "Oh, I don't read. I don't really remember anything I read." I say, but you don't read to take a quiz or a test on the contents of the book. You read to have a conversation with an author. You have a conversation with someone who's thought a lot about this. It's been peer reviewed. And then you challenge your thinking with it. And so it's not so much about just having all this knowledge jumped into your head. It's an intellectual exercise to help you think better and evaluate your own opinions. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't read Unseen Realms, it's
Yeah.
worth the read. It's worth you need it. You need
Okay.
to read it.
All right. I will expect it as a Christmas gift from you.
Okay.
So,
Ho ho
well, Bill, thank you so much for doing this today. I appreciate this. I'm sure it's going to be encouragement to other pastors just to get to know you a little bit more. And we'll look for other videos of other pastors in the WR.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear the other guys' stories too. So
All right.
everybody's got a story. I'm ready to hear somebody else's.
There you go. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Blessings, brother.